Hi there, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for our webinar on Digital Toolkit for Bookkeepers. We're just going to wait a few more moments for some others just to log in to our session. It won't take long. Also, just so you know, this webinar will be recorded and we'll send a copy out to you after the presentation with a copy of the slide deck as well as the video. So if you're interested in any of the cool apps that Niamh's going to share with us today, don't stress about writing all that stuff down. Like I said, you'll have a copy of the slide deck as well as the video. So you'll have plenty of time to catch up and watch it all again. Okay, so it's 11 o'clock, so we will get started. So on our panel today, we've got Niamh Campbell. So Niamh is a First Class Accounts bookkeeper at Wanneroo in Perth, WA. So introduce myself, I'm Michelle Timperley. I'm an account manager here at Practice Ignition. And also on the team today, we've got Brendan Allen and we've got Eugene Chippers, account managers also here at Practice Ignition. And these guys are going to manage all our Q&As during the session today. So if I could just ask that if you do have a question, if you could pop it in the Q&A box, not so much the chat box. The reason why we ask that is that if we do run out of time, we would like to get back to you on those questions, and so the best place to pop that in is in the Q&A. Our session today will hopefully go for about 45 minutes, and hopefully we've got the opportunity to ask Niamh some questions directly towards the end. So we'll just go through our agenda. So shortly I'm going to introduce you to Niamh Campbell, and she's going to share her story with us about how she chose to use automation in her processes, what's in her digital toolkit, how she came about making the decisions about which apps to use, what worked, what didn't work. We're also going to talk about the impact the toolkit has had on her business since introducing these apps. We're also going to cover end of financial year. I know it's an incredibly busy time for everybody. So the question is, when's the best time to introduce these apps to our business? And shortly after that, Niamh's going to give us a great demonstration on Zapier and how to actually build a Zap. And we'll finish off with providing you some more information on how to best prepare for end of financial year, and also show you some great resources that are available to you right now. And then, like I said, and towards the end there, we'll also have some Q&A time. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Niamh Campbell to you. So Niamh, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so I'm Niamh Campbell from First Class Accounts Wanneroo. We've been in business for about 4 years now. I've always had a passion for gadgets and technology since I was young, so it sort of was inevitable I was going to end up looking for the gateway to that in this business. I love four-wheel driving, camping, and I've got a bit of a hobby for photography. And I've made my main push for getting everything automated and using the apps in the business is we've got a 4-year plan that in 4 years we want to be traveling around Australia in a caravan, but I still want to continue working. So I need to be fully cloud-based to be able to do that.
That's awesome. And so Niamh, I read in your little bio there that you're coming from a hospitality background. I'm just wondering, how did that change occur? Like, how did you get into the accounting space from being in hospitality?
So my dad is a CPA and he's worked in accounting as long as I've known. And we've always spoken about owning our own business. And about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, he came to me and said he'd seen First Class Accounts and would that be something I'd be interested in? And I've always had a bit of a nerdy spot for numbers as well. And I probably should have done accounting when I left school, but I didn't. So it just sort of seemed like the right fit for us. And I obviously had him. He's been able to guide me over the last 4 years with his experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we are talking about your dad, and so I understand that it's a family-based business. So can you tell us a little bit, I know you just briefly give us an intro on your father, and he's been in the accounting industry for a while. So do you just sort of tell us a little bit more about your team?
Yeah, so it's Dad and I do a lot of the day-to-day bookkeeping for the clients, so more the transactional side of it. Dad does more of the advisory side of it and helping clients with the budgets and stuff like that. But we work really well together. I obviously know all the technology side of it as well and trying to help him with that. So Just the way we work together seems to really work. We both work out of our own homes, but we talk to each other probably nearly every day via phone or email. And yeah, we use Trello to integrate all the jobs that we need to do, so we both know where we're up to. So if I go away or he goes away, we can both still continue servicing the clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so at the moment, it's just you and your dad, but and you're talking about in the future that you want to travel. So I'm imagining at some point in time you want to expand your team.
Absolutely, we'd love to get some people in to give us a hand, especially if I am traveling. I'd like to get someone in Perth doing the transactional side and being able to have conversations with clients face to face if they need it, and also so that Dad can sort of enjoy his semi-retirement a little bit more, and he shouldn't have to work as much, but he can go out and try and find the clients, and we can have someone else helping me with the work.
Yeah, cool. And so at the moment it is just you and your dad, and I'm just wondering, because it's family, and family have a unique way of communicating with each other, if you could just share with us how you communicate at the moment. Is it pretty casual communication, or do you actually use apps in your business to communicate on a professional level?
We do use Slack, especially when it comes to if we've won a client or something like that. I have Slack set up for that. Email a lot, and family dinners quite a lot more as well. So my husband and my mum sometimes get a little bit frustrated with us, but yeah, it's a good way. But we do have Trello for the formal notes and communication.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I'm just curious, how do you set goals for your business, and who inspires the change? Like who's the instigator of all that?
It's pretty much a joint thing. I set myself a personal dollar value goal last year that I wanted to hit, just for me, and we hit it, which I was pretty happy about. Dad also promised me this year that if I hit a different goal, I would have gotten a box at the Dockers, but I'm kind of glad I haven't hit that one this season, because it wouldn't have been worth it. But yeah, we sort of sit down and we have a chat with each other, and we also increase our wages based on client numbers and client payments as well. So the more I bring in, the more I earn.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're setting goals together as a unit, and then you're rewarding yourselves as well. I think the reward is really important as well, because otherwise why are we doing it? So I love to hear that you guys inspire each other and help each other to motivate each other to get to your goals. I think that's fantastic. So thank you very much for sharing the background about you and your father and how you sort of joined forces to start up a business together. I know that you and I have met on a few occasions, and I have to say that every time we talk, I'm super excited to always speak to you, because you're definitely the guru on the apps, and I always learn something new when we're chatting. So if you can just share with us your story, sort of why you turned away from the traditional sense or the manual sense of doing things with your onboarding process, and how that came about with automation. So what inspired you to make the change?
I suppose it was that manual process. When we were onboarding a new client, you'd email them, obviously you'd have a conversation with them, but you'd email them a form to fill in to get all their basic details, and they'd have to print it out, fill it in, scan it, email it back. Then you'd have to decipher their handwriting. And my mum does a little bit of the data entry for us, so she would have been then deciphering that handwriting and putting it into Practice Ignition and MailChimp, and it was sort of frustrating because you get emails wrong or phone numbers wrong or whatnot. So that was one thing. I wanted to take that process away. And I also wanted to obviously reduce that time, reduce paper a little bit. I don't like having too much paper around. And I also wanted to spend more time actually working with the client and with the relationship with them. So the only part that's automated is the data entry side of it. The rest of it means I can talk to the client personally and spend a little bit more time with them.
Yeah. And so would you say that introducing this automation has alleviated some stress from yourself personally as well as your business, and it's giving you back some free time?
Absolutely. Obviously, I don't forget, if we do get a new client, I don't forget to put their information into MailChimp so they don't get left off our newsletter or you know, all of that manual stuff that I would have had to do before. I probably save per client maybe 9 to 10 hours of like onboarding and data entry and all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, if I was to do that manually, it's taking away actual billable time, but also time that I can be generating or creating that extra relationship with the client.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a phenomenal figure. So not 9 hours. That's amazing.
Just when it comes to the data entry side of it and all of that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've talked about some of the pain points and the old-fashioned way of doing things. Can you share with us some of the apps that you actually use today and how you use them?
Yep, that's pretty much all of them there. But so I start off with Calendly, so someone can make an appointment with me for their free one. I offer a free 1 hour, you know, catch up. They use Calendly for that. Then if after that they decide they'd like to become a client, I use HubSpot to enter their details into. That then triggers a typed form to get sent to them for them to fill out their information, which then gets sent to Practice Ignition and MailChimp. Once they sign my proposal in Practice Ignition, it gets sent to Trello and Xero, and then I use Zoom and Loom just for video things in between, and Slack for communication with Dad.
Great. And so I'm imagining when you introduced these apps and you were using them for the first time, it was all trial and error. And I imagine the whole process wasn't perfect. So what mistakes do you see that other firms might make when they're tackling automation?
Just figuring out, I think the main thing for me was figuring out which order I wanted things to happen in. It was probably a full day, a 12-hour day of me working everything out. So it's just, I think the biggest mistakes are making sure that you find the right apps to fit with what you want, and making sure you've got that process written down first, so you know what order you want things to go in.
Yeah. And, you know, like you're talking about 12 hours, that's, to me, I see that as an investment. Because when we compare that with the 9 hours per client that you're saving, it's well and truly worth investing that time to bring in these apps to your business. So I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So how would you then feel the cloud and all these apps have impacted on your life and your relationship with your dad?
Well, it's given us more time. Mum doesn't have as much stuff to do either, so I've taken a little bit of work off her, but it also gives us more time to go out, network, find new clients, and spend more time doing the things that we want to do as well, because obviously that's why a lot of us get into business, is to do the things that we want to do as well. So it's just saved us time and made sure that we've always got everything organized.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just I'm thinking of some questions that, like, common questions that we get as account managers at Practice Ignition, and one of them is scope creep, and having to use Practice Ignition in their firm. I'm just wondering, how do you manage scope creep, and is scope creep an issue in your business?
I think I think it always will be, and it always is. I generally, when I send out a proposal, I always have, this is what we're offering you, and then there's always the line at the bottom, anything outside of this scope will be charged per hour. But I have to admit, I'm very, very bad at then billing that extra scope creep on top of it, but it is always in my proposals.
Yeah. And just for those of you who don't know me, so I'm also a bookkeeper, and I've got my own bookkeeping practice. And before I was using Practice Ignition in my own firm, I was terrible at reviewing my prices and my services. I found increasing my fees really nerve-wracking. I hated asking for money. But once I introduced PI into my business, I found that it just eliminated that problem altogether. So I'm just wondering with you, Niamh, how do you manage renewals? Do you sort of set and forget, or do you review them annually?
No, we do review all of our clients annually. I'll sit down and work out, you know, whether their business has grown, whether the transaction volume has grown. But we always, all of our prices go up with CPI every year. So Dad just tells me at the beginning of July what the CPI was, and I just do a rollover with the CPI.
And that's quite easy for you. Like, you're quite comfortable. You don't feel intimidated by increasing your fees by doing that.
No, we obviously will let all the clients know normally at the start of June, that it will be happening.
Yeah.
And then it just happens. Yep.
Yeah, great, awesome. So we've talked about the pain points in the business and the apps that you use to automate, but how do we actually connect them to automate even further?
We use Zapier.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about Zapier? Like, what, for those who don't know what Zapier is, if you just give us a brief intro of what its purpose is and why you use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Zapier is basically an app that helps you to integrate apps that don't natively integrate with each other. So if you want something to go from one app to another app and you can't do it with them together, then Zapier will run in the background and make that happen, basically.
Yeah. So for example, at the moment, you know, you think about Practice Ignition and Xero, they automatically connect with each other. But you've got other apps, for example, like Slack and Practice Ignition, well, they don't automatically connect together. So this is where you would introduce Zapier to allow that connection to take place.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Great. Okay. I'm sure people who've never used Zapier before or have heard of Zapier but don't really know about it, Niamh is going to actually give us 2 demonstrations. Is that right, Niamh? You're going to do 2? Yeah. Yep. So Niamh mentioned before about Typeform. I love how she uses Typeform, and I hope that it's of great interest to you. And then also she's going to show us how we build a Zap. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and I'll let you take over, Niamh.
Okay. So I actually recorded the videos last night, but I'm going to talk over them today. So the first one I'm going to show you is how to create a type form. Hang on. Let me just bring that back. So you just log in. Typeform is free as well for a 10-question form. I do pay for it because there's a few things within it, like the logic jump that you do need to pay for. This is just setting the type form up. So it's very simple to use. You just click on the add a question, type in what you want to know. So you can have short answers, or this one's going to be an email address. So I've done this. This is about 7 questions, this type form, I think. Excuse my bad spelling and So just very, very quick examples of some of the questions that I do send out within my type form to get from the clients. I don't put in anything that is like personal that you wouldn't be able to find out anyway. So I don't ask for tax file numbers or bank account details or anything like that. It's all just pretty standard stuff. So with my one, with this business structure one, if they say that they're a sole trader, I'll show you how to do it later on, but it does a logic jump. So it'll say, if they say sole trader, it will jump to a question called saying what's their date of birth. But if they tick any of the other ones, it doesn't ask them what their date of birth is.
Yeah, that's awesome, because that's a really common question, isn't it? And if you can automate that process, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do all of them first, and then we'll go back and do the logic jump between question 4 and question 5. And I always just do, obviously I've had a conversation with the client and I have an idea of what they want us to do, but then I always just send them the list so that they can tick off exactly what sort of services they want from us, because they might not know that we offer other services like the automation or advisory. As I said, this is just a quick one that I've done.
I like that idea actually of adding all those services in there, because a lot of the times when we're talking to clients, they're really unaware of the services that are available.
Yeah, exactly. And because we might offer a discount to QuickBooks or something like that, they don't know that we can do that until they go through the form, because you don't have time to do all that talking when you're sitting down meeting them for the first time.
Yeah.
You can also, using Typeform, you can get them to upload files. So I asked them to upload either a CSV of their last 3 months of transactions or their previous P&L and balance sheet if they have them. You can get them to upload a logo if it's a new file, so you can get the logo already into the file for them. So this is the logic jump. So you just basically say if your business structure is equal to sole trader, then it will jump to question 5. In all other cases, it will then jump to question 6. So it'll just skip the date of birth one. Cool. So I did them all in different different Loom videos, just so it was easier. And if I made a mistake, I could just go back. So this one here is actually creating the Zap between, so the Zap that I'm creating was to get that information from Typeform into Practice Ignition. So I'll just jump it back to the beginning. So you just choose the first app that you want to start with. So what's going to be the trigger? And for this one, it was Typeform. So you pick out your Typeform account. And then you find the form that it was that you used, which was the webinar test. Then what it will do is Zapier will connect to Typeform and pull over some information from a form that was in there, so you can test it with live data. And then you say, I want which app you want it to go to. Choose your account. And then this is where you tell Practice Ignition where to put the data from Typeform. So show all, so this is where you put in the name and then the contact name. So you'll just show all the options and find the name again. So you can pull over whatever information you need to pull over, as much or as little as you get in the form.
So that's awesome. So that saves you having to go into PI and manually putting your client's details in. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
Exactly. And I always, because all the information that I get within the form, I don't need in PI. In the notes section in PI, I just pull over every single answer to everything that's in the Typeform, just so that it will all sit in the notes section for me, so that if I ever need it. Sorry, I forgot to put spaces in them today. So you can put, like, depending on what you get in the form, you can have that all filter straight through into Practice Ignition.
Yeah.
So that's just telling you everything that you're pulling across, and then we test. And it's happy, and then down the bottom, you just turn the Zap on. So now every time someone fills in that form, all that data will go straight across to PI for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Excellent.
I think I just had a quick video of just what it looked like in PI as well, just if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Where are you? So obviously this is PI, just go into clients. There's the webinar test. And then you can see down the bottom, it's got all the notes. So the email address, their name, what business structure it was, their ABN and stuff like that. So that's just very quick.
That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm just watching this as well. And I'm thinking it's so worth investing that time to build it. Once you've built it, it's there, and it's just going to save this massive amount of time ongoing.
Yeah, and you know, it's a work in progress for me. I always come across things that I might need to tweak or change. But it's once you've got the bones of it, it's easy enough to go in and change it over.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for sharing that with us. That was brilliant.
That's cool.
So if I can just get you to stop sharing, fantastic. Yep. Thank you very much. And just move this over. Can you see my screen again, Niamh?
Yep, can do.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, I'll just move a few things around on my page. And oh, there we go. I couldn't get the slide deck to work, but it's working again now. Yeah, so great. That was a wonderful demonstration, and I definitely love and embrace that whole side of using Zapier to connect them now. So we've discovered some great tools that are available that you're using in your toolkit. And the automation is fantastic. However, we're still talking about artificial intelligence and computers, and these are all non-human elements that do the work for us. I'm just wondering, how does this affect your overall client experience?
I think I always try and have a first initial face-to-face meeting with all of my potential clients. And I explain to them what the process will be, so it will all be automated. But I've only really automated the data side of it. So I still talk to the clients personally. So I find that it's probably given me more time. But I haven't had any clients really say that it was difficult or that they've been confused. I've had a few clients say it was quite easy and that, you know, it worked really well for them. And I have quite a few older clients in their 70s and 80s, and I've gotten them to go through the whole process as well, and they haven't had too many issues. You know, there's been a few phone calls, but most of it they've been pretty good with.
Yeah, that's great, because that was going to be my next question is, you know, it's wonderful to have automation, but what do you do to make the client still feel the love? And obviously that's where, like you said, you're still having that face-to-face meeting with them, you're still having phone calls with them. So you're still embracing the human element of that interaction. It's just the admin side of things that you're automating. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Awesome. And so just to sort of carry on for this, I love this little phrase, just having satisfied customers isn't good enough anymore. If you really want a booming business, you have to create raving fans. And I think you're well and truly on your way with that. You know, you're freeing up your time so that you can spend more time with your clients and deliver some really great value. So do you think that it's actually enhanced and built the relationship even further with your clients?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just, as long as you tell them what the process will be, then they're aware of it. But yeah, I think it's just given me a bit more time to build that relationship properly and not have to worry about the boring data side of it that we need.
Yeah, great. All right, so I feel like we've gone through quite a lot already. So, you know, you've given us some awesome insights on the apps that you use in your business. You've also told us how you connect them seamlessly using Zapier. Could you just give our viewers some little bit of advice if they're thinking about creating an app stack of their own?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing is, the apps that I'm using aren't the only ones out there that do those jobs. So you've just got to go and find the right one that works for you. And as I said before, it's never going to be perfect. So there might be a new app that comes out that might, you know, take away some of that link and you can connect them themselves. Or you might, you know, one of my biggest ones was I forgot that date of birth for the sole trader. So then I had to go back in after a few clients filled it out. I was like, damn it, I've got to go back to them. So you'll be working through that that process. So it's never going to be perfect, and it's a constant improvement. And yeah, I look for return of investment in time. You know, I don't want to be sitting in front of a computer all day, every day, doing data entry and doing that sort of stuff. So if I can get some time back, then to me, that is dollars.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said before, you know, you love full driving, love photography, and you want to travel. So, you know, you're well and truly on your way there. So I'm just wondering then, you know, you do have some wonderful tools. So where you're at right now, do you sort of see any next challenges that you're going to be facing moving forward?
Yeah, so obviously if we're going to be taking on staff, I'm going to need to move away from Trello, I think. We're looking at moving to something like Carbon. So that's going to be my next big challenge, is figuring how to get that all set up. But But I think for everybody, like this particular period at the moment is just a big challenge enough for us. So trying to get through the next 4 or 5 months will be, yeah, challenge for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this leads directly into my next slide. So thanks for the intro, Niamh. But no, I do sincerely want to thank you for sharing your story with us. And I really hope that you've inspired others to think about their business and what processes they're currently using that are still manual based, and how they can sort of start introducing apps and automation into their business. And just exactly like you said, Niamh, we're heading into the busy time of year. So end of financial year is just around the corner. I find that each year there's another level of compliance work that has to be done. So, you know, like our stack deck of work and compliance just keeps building and building. So last year, STP was compulsory across the board. So that was a really large chunk of new compliance. And this year we've also got JobKeeper to deal with as well. So our list of compliance work just keeps building. And so, you know, we're halfway through May, we've got June to go, and then it's silly season in July. So I feel that sort of May and June is the best time to start planning and prepping for end of financial year, so that you do have a smooth running July, and it's not so crazy. So yeah, planning well is really, really important. So I've already started to review my current proposals, and I'm getting ready for the rollovers for the new financial year. So just got a couple of questions that I want to throw out to our audience is, you know, have you started thinking about your rollover processes yet? When do you anticipate to send out those renewal engagements? I know when I prepare my renewals, I always ask myself a couple of questions. So first of all, I say to myself, well, you know, do I need to review my service library items? And we'll use JobKeeper as a classic example that, you know, we're constantly re-engaging with our clients and the scope of the work can change. So you know, have a look at your library items and just check to see if you need to add any other things in there. It's also a great idea to look at your letter of engagement, because compliance is always changing. Make sure that your terms and conditions and your letter of engagement is up to date. The other thing that I always check too is, you know, have I been profitable on my jobs for the year? So a lot of my clients are on packages. I track my time throughout the year. So I do want to compare those two things. So I'd suggest that, you know, you might want to do that as well. And the other thing that I look at is, you know, have I missed anybody? Have I got all my clients in practice ignition? So it'd be great to have everybody in the one place so I can get that one sense of truth from a particular software. And so I make sure that all my clients are in PI as of July 1. And I definitely make sure that I've got all my payments enabled for all my proposals, because I want to make sure that I'm paid on time and I'm definitely being paid for my services. I know before I was using Practice Ignition, my terms were 7 days, and without a word of a lie, sometimes I was waiting 3 months to be paid. And I just can't run my business like that. And so bringing Practice Ignition into my own firm has definitely alleviated a lot of stress. I'd like to be like you, Niamh, and implement all these wonderful apps to streamline those processes even further. So you've given me some homework. But also just to let you know, so pre-end of financial year is an opportunity to reconnect with your clients, have a discussion with them about what their needs and services are. Perhaps there's an opportunity to upsell some services. I know there's definitely a time to review your third-party subscriptions, because Xero is increasing their prices as the 1st of July. So that's something else you need to look at. And the question that we asked earlier, you know, throughout the year, did you deliver any out of scope services? And was that service, did it sort of lean towards a regular requirement? So you want to make sure that you're adding those into your proposals as well. So these are all the questions that I ask myself when I'm preparing for a new engagement each year. So that will lead us on to the next slide. So coming up next week, Brendan Allen is going to be doing a webinar on rollovers. So I really recommend that you attend that session, because he's going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to do the rollovers. And then he's going to sort of tackle the questions that we're always asking is about pricing. So he's going to show you some strategies about pricing, and then also pricing, the model pricing. So look out for that invite. I know that's coming out sometime this week. So that's next week. If you could join us, that would be fantastic. So before we wrap up, I just want to share with you some other helpful information. As a whole, we've been talking about apps and zaps and automating your way out of admin. So here at Practice Ignition, you may not be aware that we actually offer a session called Process Mapping, where we can have a one-on-one session with you and talk about your business. We talk about your goals, what you want to achieve, your current processes, and through that, we help you navigate a way around which apps may help achieve those goals. So perhaps once you finish your end of financial year and all that compliance work that we just talked about, and you may be interested in a session with process mapping, just reach out to your account manager to book in a time, and hopefully we can get that journey underway for you, and maybe just plant a few seeds for you to start investigating which apps best suit your business. The second thing I want to share with you, for those of you who know me, you know that I love schedules, I love planning in advance, and I'm pretty good at achieving my goals and deadlines and things like that. And so I'm in the process of creating a playbook, and I'm hoping this playbook will help you to get your systems and processes in place in preparation for June 30. So my goal always with my re-engagements is to have all my proposals signed by the 30th of June. And so what this playbook is just a little guide on dates of when you should have particular tasks done in your Practice Ignition account. And then inside each of those little tasks, I've got some really great resource tools. And I'm going to show you at the end of this slide deck anyway, some additional tools, but look out for that as well. And I'm really, really hoping that will help you plan and prepare well for end of financial year. So if I can, I just want to have a little poll time. I just need to find out from you, what is it that you're looking for over the next few weeks, because we are heading into the silly season. If you can just share with me what your priority is, and we can have our account managers reach out to you and try and help you as best we can. So I'm just going to go and launch the poll. So if you guys just want to click, you can click one, you can click all of them. It's completely up to you, but we'll just leave that open for a little while. And I'm just going to have a quick click. It's great. I can see quite a few coming in. That's awesome. A lot of people are loving your Zaps, Niamh. They're really liking the information that you've given there. It's of great interest. So we'll just wait a few more moments. A few more coming in. All right, we're going to end the poll. You ready? Set. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for filling that out. That's fantastic. I'll just shrink that. Great, awesome. Okay, so we talked about resources. So the team at Practice Ignition have been really, really busy creating all this wonderful content for you. So when you get the slide deck, you've got links to all these wonderful resources. So I do encourage you to click on those to help you get through those processes for end of year. And then also I've just added a few additional resources. So we've got some step-by-step guides here on how you do rollovers in PI, best practice for annual contracts. We've got some great tools here on Zapier. This one here, I like to, pricing your practice. This was actually written by a guy, and in the resources there, if you're interested, he's actually got an Excel spreadsheet where you can actually just pump in all your information about, you know, the number of transactions, what they need, and it will zip out an overall package price for you. So that's a really cool tool. Now, if you have any other questions, you can contact support if you've got technical questions, or if you'd like some one-on-one sessions with your account manager, just contact us at those details there. And now we're at the point where you've got the opportunity to ask questions. I know Brendan and Eugene have been madly typing away some answers. So Brendo, do you just want to take over and read these out? Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions coming through throughout the webinar there. So Niamh, I had some questions, actually 3 questions here from Sue. I think initially during your introduction, you mentioned a program you're using for communication. Do you know what that was, or does that make sense?
Was that Slack when I was communicating with my dad?
I think it might have been. Yeah. Yes, that sounds about right, okay. Sue. So I think Slack's what you're looking for, and that's we use Slack here at PI religiously. So if you're looking for a quick messenger service, can't go wrong with Slack. It's the best one. Another one, this is a good one. Another one from Sue. You said you use HubSpot for your workflow processes. So the question is, how do you use HubSpot? Is that a deployment process? Like, what do you actually use HubSpot for to I guess, push out of?
Yeah, so HubSpot's a really good CRM that I really don't use the full benefits of. I pretty much just use it as a trigger process. So once I've had that initial meeting with the client, if they decide they want to go ahead and get a quote from me, I put their name and email address into HubSpot, and then that triggers the Typeform email to be sent to them. So they get an email from me with the Typeform link. So I think I just answered 2 questions in one there.
You did.
Yeah.
So
that's
yeah.
So that's all I use HubSpot for.
Cool. Yeah, we use HubSpot as well. You've been copying our stack, or maybe we've been copying yours. Yeah. So Sue's final question there was, how is Typeform sent to new clients? And that's great. So that gets sent out of HubSpot automatically. It's really good to see that. So this train of triggers coming along every time a new client comes on, all these sort of little things happen, which is exactly what you want to see. Couple more questions coming through. Kathy has asked, how do we get access to the resources link? I understand we'll be getting the whole slide deck out to you in the next day or 2 with links to those resources. So you'll see those come through very soon. June's asked, can Typeform be sent from Outlook?
Yeah, so it's just a link that you can copy. You can create a Typeform for anything, and it can be shared on Facebook. My Typeform is triggered through HubSpot, but it's actually sent from my Outlook as an email anyway. So yeah, it's just a link.
Cool. So the Zap is basically taking the Typeform and setting up in Outlook and then sending it for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And Sue says, thanks for all the answers. That's all I had here. I had one that hang on. You also mentioned Calendly. How does this work? That's a good question.
So Calendly is just, I was sick of the time spent going, are you free on this day? No, I'm not. Are you free? And so I now have Calendly linked to my Outlook. And if someone wants to make an appointment with me, I just send them the link to my Calendly and they book a time that suits them. And I also just have it at the bottom of all my emails, so anybody can make a time whenever they want.
Excellent. There's one answer here that I put through earlier, but I'll put you on the spot here, Niamh. Somebody's asked if you can, Trina's asked if you can get a copy of those short video examples, those looms that you made. I know they'll be in the recording here, but yeah, cool. Well, we'll get those sent through. I'll get those links off you and we'll send them through to Trina.
Yep, no problem.
I think that's it for now, unless any more questions come through. Michelle, I might kick back over to you.
Yep. Thanks so much, Brendan. So that really concludes our presentation. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Niamh, for sharing your story with us. It's always inspirational to talk to you. And like I said, you are the guru of apps, and I always get excited to have a chat with you because I'm always learning something new. So thank you very much. And also thank you very much to all our guests for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation as much as I did. And I also hope that you're able to join us next week for Brendan's webinar on rollovers. I think you'll get a lot out of that. So thank you again. I hope you all guys have an awesome day and we'll catch up with you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.